Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel Niharika Codes. My name is Niharika and this is my first ever video. I'll be explaining how I made this cute Polaroid-style widget using HTML, CSS, and Electron. If you're not familiar with Electron, absolutely no worries. I'll be making it super easy for you to follow through and actually build this. Before we get coding, let's understand what we need to build. First, we have a carousel and buttons to scroll through the cards. Then we have a card container which contains the card and a front and a back side of the card. To make this video super easy for you to understand, I'll be breaking it into 4 main segments. First, creating the carousel. Second, creating the Polaroid card. Then we'll be combining both of these and finally making a widget out of it. So without taking any more time guys, let's get into coding the carousel. First, we will be coding it normally like a website. So let's create our index.html and style.css. In our index.html, let's first apply our boilerplate. Change the name to whatever you want. I just named it Polaroid wall. Then let's create a div.carousel. Inside it, let's create a div.card and just replicate it multiple times so that there are multiple cards for the carousel scroll to be logical. Then in our style.css, let's first remove the default browser margins and paddings by setting them to 0 and making the box sizing as border box. Let's style our carousel next. Make the width say 80%, then height 300 pixels. Let's also apply a border of 2 pixels solid black and then a background color of say aqua. I know it's not looking very pretty at this moment, but this is functionality development time guys. Also, let us link our CSS on the HTML file so that the styles will apply. And as you can see, we have our pretty aqua looking carousel. I wanna center that, so let's do display flex, justify content center, and align item center on the body, which is the parent element of our carousel. I also want to have some space between the HTML and the carousel. Let's do margin top 7 EM. That looks good. Next, let's style our cards. Don't get confused. These are just temporary cards to first accomplish the functionality of the carousel. Just apply some width, height, border, and background color to be able to see the cards. And as you can see, the cards are going beyond the carousel vertically. Let's fix this by making the carousel display flex. And we also need some justifying and some aligning. And now it is good. Now I just changed the width of the card to 200 pixels to make my point more obvious. You see the cards are shrinking and I can prove that by inspecting, and as you can see the purple lines are overlapping, meaning the cards are getting shrink to occupy the container space and not go beyond it. To avoid that, we need to change the width and height and make it flex 0020 EM, which translates to grow 0, shrink 0, and base size 20 EM. Because default browser settings for a flex container is 01 auto, means they can shrink to fit the flex container, and auto is take whatever base size depending on the container size. You can see the cards now do not shrink. Let's update that in our style sheet. Now you can see the carousel is all weird. Let's fix that by making the width 100%. Also, the cards were going beyond the carousel. Let's actually make overflow X auto to get a scroll bar within the carousel. Now you see this ugly ass scroll bar. We're gonna remove that, but before, let's apply some gap between the cards. Now that we have some gap between the cards, they have their own personal space, let's get rid of this ugly scroll bar. So we're gonna do carousel, WebKit scroll bar, display none. Okay, why didn't it work? Let me reload. Okay, so I have this extra double colons. Let me remove that. Still not reload. Maybe the space. Yeah, so the scroll bar is gone. Now we need some buttons. Let's do carousel : scroll button right. Then content as greater than sign. Then background as pink, border as blue, height as 30 pixels as well as width is 30 pixels. Yay! We now have a ugly button. Let's make it round with border radius 50% and I want cursor pointer. Done. Let's replicate it for the left button. We're just gonna put a comma and then copy paste, then change it to left because all the styling for both of them is the same. So it's redundant to write it again and again. Then let's change the content to left, making it a less than sign. Okay, so we have both the buttons now. And they even work. Choppy scroll can be fixed with scroll behavior smooth. Whoa, Michael Jackson. Woo! Now we want to make the left button go to the left side of the carousel. Now your first instinct would be to do position fixed on carousel and then relative on the buttons, then do transform translate X. But see, that's not gonna work because you'll have this very ugly horizontal scroll bar and the site wouldn't be responsive. So we are gonna remove all that and be a little bit more modern with anchor name. anchor name dash dash carousel on the carousel. It is basically you giving a name to an element using which other elements can be positioned relative to it. In our case, the buttons. Then make the buttons position fixed so they don't move around and are fixed at their positions. Then position anchor dash dash carousel, so basically positioning it relative to the element we just named carousel. And then position area right for the right button and left for the left button. Voila! Now we have buttons and they are at their positions and we don't have a ugly scroll bar. And they're working, but there's one problem, and that is they randomly stop anywhere, like they're cutting the cards in the middle, as you can see. I don't want that, you don't want that, we don't want that. What we want is that it stops at the start of a card. For that, what we're gonna do is on the carousel, we'll write scroll snap type X mandatory. X tells that we are doing horizontal scrolling, and then in the card we are gonna do scroll snap align start. That makes it stop at the start of the card and not cut it, as you can see. Now I am satisfied with the carousel. We'll obviously style it and make it prettier later, but we first need to make the Polaroid cards. So let's get into making the Polaroid cards. For making it super simple to understand, I'm gonna create a new HTML file called card.html and for it a new CSS file called card.css. Applying the boilerplate on the card.html and renaming it as card and linking the CSS. Now creating a div.container, actually div.card container, and then a div.card and then a .front and .back. Then let's open our card.css file and let's get styling. .card container, making it aqua, also some width and height, making the div tall. And ugly with some solid black border. Let me start my live viewer and open it in the browser to view our creation. Aqua looks dashing. Let's style its children to not be the diamond of the season. Now you see all our containers. Let's make the front and back the same size. First, let's make all of them center aligned, so our favorite line of all times, display flex, justify and align all center. we want to stack the front and back on the top of each other. So we're gonna do position absolute. Now they're stacked, and I'll prove it because inspect. See how they appear at the same spot because they're stacked. Now we come to the most important part. How are we gonna do the flip animation? To do the flip animation, we need 4 main concepts: perspective, preserve 3D, backface visibility, and rotate Y 180 degree. When you flip a card, you rotate it 180 degree along the y-axis, so we need rotate Y 180 degree. We all get that. Let's understand perspective. When you open the MDN docs of perspective property, you'll see this demo. You see how 3D the cube becomes as we go to smaller units of perspective? Perspective defines how far the object is from the user. The larger the value, farther the object. The smaller the value, the nearer the object. Let me actually change this value to 8,000 pixels. You see there is not much of a 3D effect. But if you make it 800 pixels, whoa, so 3D. 1000 again, 100 again, 10, whoa, 10 is too much. Okay, you can actually think of this as when you are traveling via an airplane and you see the buildings down appear as tiny flat dots or squares, but when you are standing next to the building, you see it more 3D, you know? Next is transform style preserve 3D. It indicates that the children of the element should be positioned in the 3D space. See how this yellow strip is flat and then it goes inwards when preserve 3D is applied? Next is backface visibility. You see this cube and the red surface with 2. If you do backface visibility hidden, then it hides that surface, making it appear like an actual dice. In our case as well, you will not see the back of the card through the front or the front through the back. That is why we need this backface visibility to be hidden. Now that we have understood all the concepts, let's apply it to code. Perspective is applied on the parent element. We are applying it on the card container. Transform style is also applied on the parent. So we are applying it on the card because we want front and back divs to be positioned in 3D space also. Then we want that when we hover over the card container, we want the entire card to rotate 180 degree along the y-axis. We also need to apply rotate on the back because we want it to be positioned opposite to the user or the viewer. Also, we need to apply backface visibility hidden to both front and back, and it should rotate. Okay, it doesn't rotate. Why? Okay guys, so you shouldn't write 180 degree in quotes, you should write it as it is. That is why it's not working. As you can see now, it works and it is showing both the front and back when I hover. But let's apply some delay so that the flipping of the card is actually more realizable. And as you can see, it actually flips like a card now. Let us actually make the front and back equal to the size of the card so it looks more like a real card. And as you can see now, we can only see the front and back as we flip. Hey guys, this is me. While editing, I realized that the concept might not be very obvious from how I explained it while I was coding, so here's another try. If I comment out the perspective property, you can see how the card feels more flat. It is more obvious when I remove the comment. You can see how it adds more depth to the card. Next, if I comment out the preserve 3D property, the browser takes front and back as one single layer and not two sides of a 3D object. The contents of the front appear mirrored when the card flips, as dot back is rotated 180 degree means the back side of the dot back is to the viewer's side, which gets hidden because backface visibility is set as hidden. That is why it is not visible. When I remove backface visibility from front, you see that nothing much is changed. But if I remove backface visibility from back, you see the upside of the card is actually mirrored content of the back, because back is rotated 180 degree, so you are actually viewing the backside of the card, backside of the back actually, and when you flip it, you see the correct contents of the back because backface visibility is removed. Don't get confused, it is basically showing both the sides of the same div without backface visibility because that's the default setting, and just because we have done rotate y 180 degree on the back as well, it's just rotated the card initially 180 degrees, so you are just viewing the backside of the card first. So I hope you have understood it. If you have any questions, guys, please ask in the comments. I'll answer them to the best of my capabilities, I promise. So without any further delay, let's get back into the video again. Let's now make the card pretty and look more like a Polaroid. So we need an image in the front. I have already made a folder named images and added all my images into it. I'm just using our favorite couple's picture from Pinterest because I didn't want to use my own. And whoa, big ass image. Okay, so let's fix that. Card.css dot front image width 100%, height 100%, object fit cover. Yep, that makes the image fit. Let me actually make the card bigger, so height and width 100%. Also apply that to the back. Okay, did nothing. Reload. Oh, I need to apply it to the card as well. Yep, now it's good. Let me actually add some padding so the card container can be seen. Yep, that's good. Okay, so basically I ended up decreasing the image width to 90%. That works, but let's center the image. So display flex and justify and actually no align. Let's add an h3 in HTML. Let's make it say you have, because I wanna say you have got a smile that can light up this whole town, because that's playing in my head right now. And actually we need to do flex direction column and also align item center. Then on the back, let's put a paragraph, lorem 12 for some text. This also display flex, let's just copy paste that. And then we also need text align center. Yep. Now let's change all the background color, make it all white. You could do a different color if you want that. This blue line is from the card border, remove that. Also, change the container background color and remove border. Yep, much better. We could also remove the background color from the container, and as you can see, the card is getting blended into the page. Let's apply box shadow. Okay, I changed it a little bit more, guys, and this is how it looks. Pretty cool. Now our card is done, guys. Let's combine it with the carousel. So let's take out entire card container and copy paste it inside the carousel. Do it as many times depending on how many cards you need. And I'm just changing the images in this. If you want to understand why I am copying the entire card container, I have actually put a pretty good example in my GitHub README document. You can go check that out. I will link that in the description. Let's also copy our card CSS into our main style.css. And let's remember to put scroll snap align start on the card container, which was earlier applied to our temporary cards in the index.html. And whoa, you can see all the cards are shrinked. That's because our card container has a fixed width and height. So let's do flex 0020 em and a height of 12 em. Okay, that fixes the shrink, but we need to increase the height. Let's also decrease the width a little bit and make it 15 em and make the height 20 em. Yep, that's good. Let's also decrease the carousel size and make it 80%. I also want to reduce the margin space from the top. Let's reduce the carousel margin to 1 em auto. Yep, now that's good. The buttons are working fine as well. Now let me make this pretty by changing the colors of the carousel and buttons. Okay guys, I just changed some colors and fonts here, and as you can see now it looks much more prettier. You can do whatever color you want, of course, but if you want to follow this exact palette, you can find the code in my GitHub, which will be linked in the description. Let me show you what I did real quick. I first removed the gap of 1 em and increased the width of the carousel to 86%. Then I style the buttons when they are disabled, meaning no further cards to scroll. Change the opacity and made cursor auto, which means it won't be a pointer, so that it's easier to understand that the carousel is ended and basically there is no more cards to scroll. Then of course change some background colors for carousel, container and all of that, and actually imported a cursive font from Google Fonts. You can just go to Google Fonts, select the font and get embedded code for it. Import it at the top of your CSS and then use the font family property to use the font. As you can see, I have used it for the back of my card to write the codes. All of these are Kathany sayings too, so that's bonus point for me. Let's now get started with making it a desktop widget using Electron. Open your terminal with either Control backtick or just go to the View tab and Terminal. Write npm init-y. This initializes a node project. Just leave the intricacies. If you want, I'll make another video explaining in depth everything about Electron, but for the sake of this project and my editing, let's move ahead. You'll see a package.json is created, then write npm install electron-d. The -d basically means you are installing it as a dev dependency. In Electron, you do not need to install it as a production dependency for it to work during production. Now let this install. It may take some time when you are doing this for the first time. You see that packages are added and maybe some packages that are looking for funding. These are open source packages and are looking for donations. This is just a notification, it's not an error. Move forward. You'll see a node modules folder is created. Now we need to create an index.js. Let's first test our Electron installation. Write console.log hello world is basically like a print statement in JavaScript. For our app to run, you need to come to the package.json file and under scripts write start : electron space dot. Don't forget the space and dot, it won't work else. Then do npm run start and you'll see hello world. That means our app is installed properly and is running properly. Let's actually make our app now. Actually, you know what? Open the Electron documentation in your browser. You'll actually see how to install and set up everything here. Let's actually come to get started, then tutorials. As you can see, they have a pretty good documentation. copy this main.js content, delete this load file line for now. Let me quickly short explain this. In the first line, we are importing app and browser window from Electron library. The const create window creates the window. We can change the height and width of this window, and this basically means wait till the app initializes, then create the window. Let's npm run start, and this basically creates your window. Let us remove the menu bar by writing win.set menu bar visibility as false. Let's rerun. Now the menu bar is gone. Let's load our HTML file here. For that, win load file index.html. Rerun, and you see our HTML is rendered. Let's change the window size. Set the width to 320 and height to 400, so only one card is displayed. You should obviously play around and see what fits you the best. I already checked mine before. As you can see now, only one card is getting displayed, but we have this scroll bar, and it would be because of our margins. Let's remove them in our CSS. We have a little more margin, okay. Yeah, let's center this. Yep, but I want a little bit of space at the top. Let's get rid of this frame at the top first. In our index.html, let's do frame false. Yeah, the frame is gone. Let's fix the space situation. Margin. Yeah, this looks good. And the buttons work. Yay! But you know what? It's not transparent. See how you cannot see the card through the window? I want this to be transparent. Let's go to our index.js and write transparent true and rerun. And see, it is transparent now. The last thing is that this app is not draggable because we removed the frame. Let's close this and actually see in the documentation first. Under custom draggable regions, you'll see that in CSS we need to mark the areas as draggable to be able to drag the app. And the buttons should be marked as no drag for them to function. So let's implement that. WebKit app region, drag to body, copy that and paste that to the carousel. And on the buttons, change it to no drag. Let's rerun. Now you see it's draggable and the buttons work, but you see as I hover the card doesn't flip. We need to mark the card as no drag because the container is draggable and that prevents the card to perform its animations. So let's change that to no drag as well. And rerun. Now it flips. Buttons work and it drags and it's also transparent. That's it guys, thank you for watching. GitHub will be linked in the description. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. Let's make the comments a positive learning space where all of us can ask and answer each other's doubts. If you like this project, please give a thumbs up. There are so many more projects to come in and I'm super excited. Also subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss those projects. Till then, next time guys, bye bye, take care.